So hi, this is about existential school of thought, and humanistic and existential schools of thought. Both of them are talked about together because they both have a humane component in them. So in the last video we had discussed about the humanistic theory. Today we'll focus on the existential theory, and obviously existential comes from the the basic term is basically existence, and it somewhere adds the value of spirituality to psychology. To give you a base about how it took birth. So basically, Viktor Frankl, as I had mentioned in the last video, Viktor Frankl was like a prisoner of the Nazi camp, and during his tenure in the camp as a prisoner, he had to obviously face the atrocities of the Nazis, and because of which he went through several critical situations wherein it was about life and death, and he basically tried to formulate a meaning of his life during those crisis situations. So that's the whole gist of his theory or his therapy, which goes by the name existential therapy, and his therapy in particular is called logotherapy. Logotherapy means treatment of soul. So it's basically related to spirituality, and they focus on the soul part of a human being, the soul, the soul. And basically it says that whatever, like the anxiety that we go through in our day-to-day life, which we generally refer to as neurotic anxiety. Neurotic anxiety, if it has a basis in our existence, or if it is stemming out of questions around our existence, then that neurotic anxiety is called an existential anxiety. It's related to existence. If the day-to-day living becomes a difficult part, or rather there are certain difficult situations which the person goes through, if there is anxiety related to that part of us, that's what existential anxiety is all about. And Viktor Frankl was of the view that somebody can very easily extract meaning from a critical situation in life. Rather, he said that meaning making during the most challenging times of life is the most significant thing to happen to a person's life. If we try to derive meaning out of our most critical or difficult situations, then that will be like a very significant thing to happen in our lives. So that's what his focus was on. So keeping this in view, under existential, you need to know that obviously that Viktor Frankl is majorly connected to it. Logotherapy is the name of his therapy. Logo, logotherapy. Then you will briefly talk about existential anxiety, the neurotic anxiety, which is related to our existence in life, and the spiritual, basically it's somewhere spiritual in nature, because here we are trying to define our meaning of life. And there's a very famous book also by the name Man's Search for Meaning. Again, it was written by Viktor Frankl. So he basically, again, very elaborately talked about his experience in the Nazi camp and how it helped in the formulation of logotherapy. So that book talks about all of that. So also that gives a basis to logotherapy. So that is basically about existential approach. And as a part of existential approach, a therapist or the person who's practicing logotherapy is allowed to disclose certain aspects of his or her life to the client. Like if I am a therapist and I'm talking to a patient of mine who's finding problems in meaning making, so I as a therapist can share my experiences also with the client. So that's called self-disclosure, that I'm disclosing my information. And other than that, transference is a technical term in psychology, wherein the client, in a very different way gets attached to the therapist, be it in a positive or a negative way. They start seeing the therapist in a specific way, like as a specific figure. So that transference is discouraged in logotherapy. Logotherapy, one cannot become somebody for the client, become a particular figure for the client. So that's discouraged. So that's basically about existential. Just to give you a quick summary, humanistic existential both focus on the non-judgmental, accepting, empathic, unconditionally positive therapist, and both the schools of thought talk about the free will of the client or the person. Both the schools of thought talk about here and now. Their idea of healthy person is the person who can focus on here and now, the present basically. And other than that, that we have freedom to choose and to derive meaning of our lives and take responsibility for our life, to take responsibility for all the decisions being made. And also the whole responsibility of healing lies with the individual who has come up with the problem. So and the therapist who sits there just as a facilitator. The main job of healing lies with the client. So that's basically about humanistic existential theory. That's about it.